It's time for the Phil Ferguson Show.
This is Phil Ferguson, and you are listening to the cleverly titled The Phil Ferguson Show. Just got this little thing that just driving me nuts. Random email kind of stuff that anyone and everyone is going to get. But as many of you know, I have a 2019 Chevy Bolt EV all-electric car, and I've gotten more and more emails and phone calls from the dealership I bought it from. For almost 2 years, nothing. Which is great. I want nothing from them. Oh, okay, maybe they sent me a coupon for a tire rotation or some service that I don't need. Thankfully, they were smart enough not to send me a discount on an oil change. I've been waiting for one of those, but they haven't done that, so that's great. But now they're calling me and saying, hey, I can trade in my car and get a new Chevy Bolt for less money per month. Now, this one here says I can go from $563 a month to $546. I can save almost $20 a month. Well, actually, it says right here, $17 a month. You can save $17 a month and get a brand new car. Now, on the surface, that sounds kind of neat. And that's the point. They found a way to make it sound like it's a deal. You're getting a car that's 2 years newer, 2 years less old, brand new instead of 2 years old, and you're paying less money. Oh, wait, there's an asterisk. There's always an asterisk. The asterisk says excludes title, tax, licensing, and any negative equity that may be the result of you trading in your other car. Oh, yeah. There's all that stuff. So the price will be at least 7.5%, 8% higher because of local taxes, the title, the destination, whatever they didn't put in there. And, of course, it assumes that my 2-year-old car is worth as much as I own, or as much as I owe on it, which it might be. No, it's probably not going to be because it's only 2 years old. And also, by the way, I go from a 5-year car loan to a 7-year car loan. So, yes, I'm going to end up borrowing a whole lot more money because they're hiding it in the fact that I go from a 5-year loan to a 7-year loan. And all of that, I save $17 per month before you include tax, title, license. Oh, my God, just crazy. And, of course, a newer car will cost more for your car insurance. And this is the kind of stuff, and I'm actually tempted to call them or show up and say, what is this bullshit? It's more mathematical financial trickery presented to you as a way to pay less every month and have something new. And I'm delighted that they don't say it's what you deserve. Because that one bugs me. You don't deserve shit. You earn shit. You buy shit. You invest. You do well. You do research and work. And you get rewards for the efforts that you put out. So anyway, just a non sequitur. Doesn't really matter to the show, I guess, but just something that just came up in my email within the last 24 hours. The show today. Oh my God, the show today. I am going to follow up on the last episode and the YouTube video that I tore apart and broke down things, what to look for. And I'm going to talk about what this guy is kind of recommending in its place, which he never actually said in that whole long video that I dissected. But I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you what he thinks is better than all the bullshit he spun. Anyway, that's going to be in that segment, so I don't have to cover it here. I also have a fantastic interview with Stax Rosch, where we talk about his brand new book on religion. And in that book, he has an argument that you can use. I like the argument, by the way, that you can use to prove to Christians and other religious people that there is not a God. It is a very clever way to actually use the Bible and a little bit of logic to show a believer that their own religion, at least in the case of Christianity, their own religion, if they believe in the book that is their guidebook, actually proves that they are indeed wrong. Because often an atheist might want to take the step back and saying, I'm not making the claim, you're making the claim that a God exists, therefore you have to prove it. And of course, that's all true. But here's a case where you can make this argument that, okay, I'll take that step and I'll prove to you that there is not a God. And not only will I make a compelling argument, I am going to use citations from your holy book to prove it to you. I love it. It's going to be fun. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Of course, there's other stuff in his book we talk about. And of course, if you want to go buy his book, it's just $6.66. Following episode, I'm going to have on Robin Blumner, and she is with Center for Inquiry and Richard Dawkins Foundation for Science and Reason, and we're going to talk about all the things that CFI is doing, and we are also going to talk about a person called Robert Green Ingersoll. And since I've already recorded her conversation, I've already confirmed that I have permission to use samples at the end of this show, a good hour, I guess, from now. I am going to put in a sample of the audio from Robert Green Ingersoll that CFI in 2004 hired a Shakespearean actor to read Robert Green Ingersoll's writings in the style of Robert Green Ingersoll. And of course, we'll talk more about Robert Green Ingersoll in the next episode, but a world famous, very, very famous in the U.S., one of the very first people Edison ever recorded on his recording device, a very big political figure that died in 1899, and it's someone that you may not have ever heard of, but you should, because his influence on U.S. politics was substantial, and his influence on religion was substantial, and he was very, very against religion and spoke very clearly and eloquently and would draw crowds. People would get in their carriages or ride on their horses or walk half a day and pay $1. I think it was $1 they often paid, in the 1880s and 1890s to see him speak. It was theater for that time, and he would explain to them why the Bible is crap. And I'm hoping that CFI in the next week or two will be able to provide me a link where you can get one of the very few remaining CDs, if you're still into CDs or you want to show your friends or have it on your bookshelf. But hopefully links to audio files were for a few dollars. You can buy your own downloadable copy of the audio of this stuff being read, but that'll be a piece at the way, way, way end of the show. So let me know if you enjoy that. Maybe I can put in some more clips in future episodes. Anywho, that's enough stuff. We're going to get into the meat and potatoes right after this.
I'm not worried about dying because I'm an atheist, right? Now, I know that this is a Christian country and I stand up for your right to be religious, but please know that you're wrong, right? Please know that you're living in a fantasy land and that after you die, nothing happens. Stop being a fucking child. I'm not scared of dying because I'm an atheist. I know I'll just rot in the ground. Right? I won't even know I'm dead. You want to know why? Because I'll be fucking dead. Religious people worry because they believe in heaven. If there's a heaven, there has to be a hell. And everyone who's read that book knows that you've done enough shit to go to hell. Right? And that makes it very stressful on your deathbed, doesn't it? Knowing what a prick you are, going, this isn't going to be good. Hey? I don't want to go to heaven. I don't even want the option of heaven. I don't want to exist in a conscious state for the rest of eternity constantly thinking. I don't like thinking as it is. Where's me passport? Can't punch women in the face. The Bible calls heaven eternal bliss. I don't care how blissful it is. It's eternal. You'll get used to it, and then you'll be fucking bored. And what's hell meant to be like? Fire and brimstone and eternal agony? That's what's written in the Bible. That's God's book. As far as I know, the devil hasn't brought out a book. We don't know his side of the argument, right? If you ask me, the devil and God are having an argument. The devil's being a bigger fucking man. Because God's just writing shit about him. And the devil's going, I'm not even going to fucking comment, son, if you talk about me like that.
It appears I need to do this segment. It's an interesting follow-up from the previous episode. I almost said last week, but I don't know if I can make these weekly like I used to. But the previous episode, I took apart a YouTube video talking about a magical way to make money. And of course, regular listeners know there's not really a magical anything, except for maybe if you go see a magician. That's pretty magical. I can enjoy that. But investing is not magical. There's certain things and certain ways that they work, and there's risks. There's always some risk somewhere, and there are things you can do to control, subdue. Yeah, not control, but subdue, limit, restrict some risks. But then, of course, you always end up with other risks. So there even like cash, you have the risk of inflation. You could put cash under your mattress and you have the cash, but it might not be worth as much in the future. So when someone promises something so good that's almost impossible to believe, maybe it really should be impossible to believe. So I did some more digging into the guy that I talked about last week. Oh, and I almost forgot. Wow, did I get a lot of emails about this, which is great. Thank you for everybody who sent them. If I was insane enough to start a second podcast or a YouTube channel that had something other than just the audio from this podcast, I now know what it would be. It would be a regular teardown of these kinds of videos because people sent me other examples. They say, hey, can you look at this? Can you look at this? Well, yeah, maybe I'll look at one or two of them at some point, but that's not really the format of the show, and I don't want to every episode tear down another wacky investment video because they are out there. But hopefully this last episode and this episode and maybe once or twice during the next year, you can learn the ideas to look for, the things that are the bigger red flags that alert you that maybe something is going on here. But to follow up on the one that I talked about last episode, the guy uses a couple of different strategies, which I'm not going to get into because I'm worried that if I present too many things, it becomes too long, it becomes confusing, and it means I have to do more work. So we don't want that, do we? But one of the fun things that this guy uses is a thing called IUL. Ooh, what is an IUL? It's something that I haven't talked about specifically in quite some time. You probably will not be too surprised at what comes next. What is an IUL? Indexed Universal Life. Okay. It's just like variable universal life. It's universal life. It's life insurance. And following my rule about life insurance in particular, but pretty much any insurance, the longer the name, the less likely you are going to want to use it. So if you want life insurance, look for term, TERM. It's a four-letter word, right? It's 4 letters. It tells you what you need to know. You can get 1-year term. You can get level pay term. You know, you have some options, but it's term. You can get whole life, which I'm not going to go into at this point. It's a little longer, but not necessarily bad. There's different types of whole life, but then they get complicated because you can have variable whole life, indexed whole life, universal whole life. And then, of course, you get variable universal whole life, indexed variable universal whole life, variable/indexed, variable/fixed universal whole life. You know, so it just gets crazy. And part of the magic from the insurance company's perspective is they make it so complicated that they can point out all the good things that are possibly there for you to use and not spend time talking about all the bad things that are also there that they count on you not reading the 200-page contract to fully understand, because I think the average person can't do it. I've tried. I can't do it. I choose not to do it, to read a 200-page life insurance contract, because why would I do that to myself? I just know already that there's problems in there. So some of the stuff this guy talks about in his video, and I think I may have cut this out because I didn't want to bring up too many things, and I didn't know what he meant when he said it. He said, you can also create a family bank. And you go, ooh, a family bank. What is this cool thing? The First National Bank of Ferguson. I can create my own bank. What does that mean? That means you have life insurance and you can take a loan out against your own life insurance. Of course, this is spun in such a way that you're paying interest to yourself. Okay, well, what interest am I paying to myself? And while it's cool that I'm paying interest to me, that means I'm out more money to actually pay that interest to me. So it's not like I'm magically making money. That means I have to pay back more than I borrowed. And do I keep all of the interest that I paid to me? And what happens to the money that's no longer, or at least temporarily, not in the life insurance policy? Does that not make the returns? Does it not make any returns? Does all of the interest that I pay to myself, does all of it really go to me? It all depends on the details in your contract. So you have to read and understand all that stuff. So just saying you can create a family bank might actually kind of sound cool, but what does it really mean? And you have to dig into that. The other thing, of course, is that the investments are tied to indexes. Index Universal Life. I mean, it's in the name, at least for this particular product. Other ones might hide it with different words. But you're investing in some kind of index funds or mutual funds or the company's proprietary stock investment fund. And they, of course, want to collect fees for that. You just may not see them. And if it's a proprietary fund, you may not be able to even get a disclosure to see what they are because it's not a publicly traded mutual fund. You're adding your money to their investment account. So how do you know how they do? How do you know how well it went? How do you know what the expense ratio is? How do you know what the commission paid to this guy for recommending that you get this? How do you know how much that is? You can ask. That's a fun question because it would be easier to get a direct answer about a sexual relationship from Bill Clinton than a commission rate from the average insurance salesperson. It's awesome. Try it someday if you want. And of course, you can share your story with me if you've ever done it or ever do it in the future. So all of this is hidden. So if they're going to use some kind of giant stock investment fund, something like an index fund, you can do that. You were probably doing that. Other things that this guy talks about that are evil are annuities and, not annuities, are 401ks and IRAs and how horrible they are. And he comes up with all these reasons why they're horrible. And I think his reasons suck, but they're strung together in such a way that he wants to convince you that there's something better to do. And I'm still not convinced that there is anything better to do. And if there is something better to do, a better method, his method is not it. His method is better for him because it makes him a lot of commissions. I saw some people asking on his YouTube videos, well, how do I do that? I have a 401k now. How do I do this magical thing that you're doing? And he actually told them the first thing that they didn't have to do was pull out of all of their money out of their IRA or their 401k, which the whole purpose of the thing that I sampled was that you can avoid taxes. Well, if you take everything out of your IRA and 401k, you've got to pay all the taxes now. Now, money that's in an IRA, you might be able to put it in some kind of fancy life insurance. Now, forgive me, I'm going to break this down to make it really basic, and I don't mean to because a lot of you know this stuff already. But when you go to make an account, the first thing there is you. There is the person or the couple or the family or the business, whatever, that wants to make an account. Great. You can make two types of accounts. I'm going to get in more detail in a minute, but to start with, there's taxable and then there is tax favored or privileged accounts. Somehow, some way they avoid taxes. they qualify by some law or IRS regulation. They qualify to avoid tax in some way. Those are called qualified accounts. They qualify for special tax treatment. That can be a 401k, a 403b, an IRA, a Roth IRA, and about 10 other kinds of names. Those are all qualified accounts. It's word salad, but that's how we got to qualified accounts. A conventional, old-timey brokerage account that you just put money in is not qualified. And so often in the industry, you'll hear a non-qualified account. And you think to yourself, why is it not qualified? Well, it didn't meet the criteria to get some kind of special qualified for tax treatment. So it's a non-qualified account. It can also be called a brokerage account, an individual or joint account, a joint brokerage account, a brokerage account, an investment account, whatever you might have set up in the 70s or earlier through financial time before new rules were made to create things like IRAs and 401ks. So all of these things have some kind of benefits and they have rules. Well, he didn't talk about any of the benefits. He just talked about the rules, the guardrails that keep you inside of these programs, because the government has decided, right or wrong, that to get this handful of benefits, you have this handful of rules that you have to follow. And you could argue that they're stupid and arbitrary, because they are. It was just created by a vote, and the Congress can vote to change them again in the future. And that is a real risk, but they could vote to change the tax rate on your taxable account. So his solution is to avoid all that and go into an insurance position, which the government can change the rules on that too, by the way. They're just random laws that are made. But one of the things he talks about is never paying tax on the money that goes into his secret method, the indexed universal life. But if you ever take money out, you will have to pay tax on it. Ta-da! If you take money out of it too soon, before the age of 59 and a half, if you take money out, not a loan to yourself, but if you take money out, you may also have the 10% penalty like you would on an IRA. So you're not really avoiding these problems that he's talking about. He just hides that they still exist under his new magical method. Another thing is that with an annuity or a life insurance product, when you take money out in retirement, you do have to pay tax on it. The part that's not taxed is when you die and it pays out. Your beneficiaries, your descendants, or whoever you decide gets the money, could actually be in the position of getting all of that money without paying any tax. That's true. However, you could do the same magic trick with a taxable account. If you put $100,000 in a taxable account, you grow it for 20 years, and it becomes worth $1 million. Maybe that's too high of a rate, but let's just say you got $1 million, and you die, and you give all the investments in that taxable account to your kids, your 3 kids. They get a thing called step-up basis up until something like $10 or $12 million. Then after that, you might have to pay inheritance tax. But most people don't have that problem. So most, if not all of that money, will go to who you assign it to without paying any tax. So you don't need an insurance product with high fees and expense ratios and commissions to get this magic trick. All you got to do is die, right? So if you want to take money out of a taxable account, you can take it out whenever you want. If it made money, you might have to pay a little tax on it. I'd rather make money, a good amount of money, and pay tax than not make money. So, it just depends on where you are, I guess. With a Roth, similar thing that you can pass it on. The rules for IRAs have changed. They changed with the Secure Act, January 1st of 2020. It used to be that you could give your IRAs to your descendants, and they could enjoy tax deferment for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Now they can only enjoy it for 10 years. That's their problem, not yours. And if your descendants complain that they have to pay taxes on the $1 million that you fucking handed to them, tough shit for them. And you're not going to worry about it because you're dead. So again, there's rules that go with this. So he wants to create a situation where you're doing basically index type investing inside of an insurance product, a life insurance product, where the commissions are unseen by you. The amount of money he gets paid every year is unknown by you. Does the insurance company pocket the money or not pocket the money? It depends. Maybe there are some assurances on the low end that if the market goes down, you don't lose money, but there's probably some cap where they keep a bulk of the money when it goes up a lot, because they're not doing this to lose money. They're doing it to make money. And if they have to pay annual amounts to a salesperson, if they have to pay an upfront commission to a salesperson, if they have to protect you on the downside, they have to make money somewhere along the way to provide all those things. And all of that money comes from you and other investors like you. So whenever you get more and more benefits and more assurances, it's going to cost you more and more money. That's going to hurt your long-term return. It just has to. That's the way math and investing works. The other thing that I wanted to make sure I cover very briefly here, and I talked about it on other episodes about insurance and annuities in specific, but with any kind of life insurance, there is the possibility that it will have a termination age, that at some point, if you've lived too long, they no longer want to be on the hook to provide you life insurance or provide your descendants with life insurance, and they will terminate the policy and give you back your money, or at least whatever's left. That's one thing to keep in mind. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that there are a lot of projections with term life insurance. You pay every year, and as long as you pay what they're asking, you get the insurance. When you stop paying, the insurance ends. Real clean, real simple, like car insurance or homeowner's insurance. You pay for a year, you're insured for a year. That's it. I like term insurance, in case you didn't know. When you get to some kind of whole life, unless it's a prepaid one lump sum whole life, you probably have to pay some amount out of your portfolio or via an additional contribution every year or every month. You have to keep paying money. Unless there's something preventing them from increasing that amount, odds are that the amount you have to pay to maintain that life insurance at a fixed level goes up every single year, because the person providing the insurance knows that as you age, the probability of you dying increases. It's kind of a bummer to think about, but they've thought about it more than you. They figured out the math, and your rates go up year after year after year. And one of the general sales pitch ideas of a lot of whole life policies or variable universal life or indexed universal life is that the portfolio will grow so much that even when the insurance costs go up, the investments that you have can pay for that increased premium. Sometimes that works. Many times, and there might be a bias here because I see people where it has not worked. That's why they come to me, where the insurance investment amount didn't grow enough. It grew too slowly, or they took a loan, or there were other fees that prevented it from growing fast enough, so that when the cost of the insurance premium goes up, you no longer are making enough incremental money or dividends or earnings in your portfolio to pay the insurance premium. So what it starts to do is take money out of your principal. And that's money you're not getting. That money goes to the insurance company. And again, it's all disclosed in the 200-page contract. You maybe just didn't get to that section. Maybe you couldn't read legible. It's written in legalese. It's all clearly detailed if you have a law degree. In English, of course, it's fine, but you don't understand it. You're not going to read it. And it says that the insurance premium goes up year after year after year after year. If the insurance company decides that they are not charging enough of a premium to cover their losses, as a group, they can raise the insurance premiums beyond what they might have even promised you. It happened to my parents. It's happened to other people. And they may even have a phrase that your individual rate can never vary. It doesn't tell you that the rate for the group that you are placed in may vary. Wait, what? Yeah, at the discretion of the insurance company, if they decide everyone that fits into this age category, let's say from 60 to 65, are dying at a slightly faster rate than they predicted, they are allowing themselves the opportunity to change the fee on that group. Your individual rate didn't change. The rate for your group did change. And so a lot of these policies, when you get into later years in life, it creates a situation like kind of like a snake eating its own tail. And it's a magical snake. So the part that it eats goes away. It just doesn't go inside. And it starts to shrink in size. And then you have a problem when this portfolio shrinks enough that you notice it. You have, let's say, $500,000 in life insurance. And this thing that was supposed to provide enough income to pay for that forever. So you would always have $500,000 of life insurance plus a big investment. It starts to shrink. And you find out at some point that, oh my gosh, my cash value is now only worth $300,000. The insurance company promises they'll pay out $1 million or $1 million. Let's say $500,000 when you die. And you go, well, okay, it's only $300,000, but they're going to pay out $500,000. Well, if you live too long, they might cancel the policy and then just cash you out and you get the $300,000. You think, well, wait, I thought I was going to get $500,000. Well, you didn't die. And then you can get to a point where the insurance costs so much that it starts eating into more rapidly the $300,000. And you get in this weird situation that more and more and more of the higher price premium has to be paid out of the principal, not from the dividend or the growth of the portfolio. And so the portfolio starts to shrink exponentially, kind of like a negative effect of what long-term investing does. If you get in that situation, you are now put into a bind where you better hurry up and die. Because if you live longer than 5 years, the policy will run out of money unless you want to come up with more cash, and it's going to end, and you now have no life insurance, and now you have no portfolio. And this is not necessarily what will happen, but I've seen it. I've seen it multiple times, and it often happens to people in their 70s because the insurance costs get more and more expensive. Doesn't happen to everybody, but it can happen. And when I've talked to people in their 70s, they might be a little confused because this is not what they thought they bought 20, 30, or 40 years earlier. And now they're in a bind. Do I hurry up and die? You know, am I worth more dead than alive? Do I take out the cash? And if I take out the cash and I die next year, do my kids get less money than if I had just left it in there and died? It's a brutal situation, and I hate it. And this is the kind of stuff that this guy is talking about. And he's not talking about any of the negatives of what he's selling. Well, why would he, right? And he's not talking about any of the positives of the stuff that he's trying to talk you out of. I thought this was going to be 10 minutes, but here we are. Hopefully that was helpful. Kind of a follow-up on one of the things this guy suggests that you can do with your money that's better than the old-fashioned 401k that traps your money, which is a bunch of bullshit. And I'm going to wrap this up. We'll go on to something more fun right after this little break. The Phil Ferguson Show is for educational purposes only. Nothing said on the show should be interpreted as personalized investment advice. Your investments should be based on your situation, and you should consult with your financial advisor before taking any action. The show may contain ads. These ads are placed into the show by the hosting company after I finish recording and editing. I have little control over the content of the ads, and you should not assume that I support their products or claims. If you choose to support the show via the new Patreon page, that support does not create an advisor-client relationship.
You're listening to The Phil Ferguson Show.
I'm here with my interview for today, Stax Rosch. How are you today, sir?
I am doing very well.
I figured I'd get that out there one time real quick to make sure even if I fuck it up later, I got your name right once. And we were just talking pre-show. I love saying that, pre-show. There's nothing saved. There's, I just tease people, pre-show stuff. But you used to do podcasting a few years ago. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I started out actually in radio. I did. I worked for my campus radio station, and I went to a real, legitimate AM station for a little while after that. And it was the early days of podcasting. I would tape the show at the radio station and then upload it to Free Thought what was it? It was the Infidel Guys Network. So it was, I think it was Free Thought Podcasts or something like that. I was back with the Infidel Guy and the Rational Response Squad and me.
Yeah.
My show was Dangerous Talk at the time.
And you don't have that now, do you?
No, it transitioned to a blog after a while, and I still hold the blog at Skeptic Inc. Network, Skeptic Inc. .com/Dangerous Talk. But I really haven't blogged that often. I definitely haven't blogged as much as I should. I used to blog like every day.
Yeah, I did a blog for 5 years, probably 2 posts a day, and I rose to the level of insignificance.
Yeah, I tried to do 1 blog a day.
Yeah.
And I did that for a very long time. And after a while, I had nothing to say. I said it all. I would refer people to past blog posts that I wrote for a website called Examiner.com.
Yeah.
And I was the Philadelphia Atheist Examiner and then the National Atheist Examiner on there. And that I did a lot more journalistic style stuff, but it wasn't real journalism. It was just my kind of take on journalism. And then I moved to Huffington Post for a little while after that.
Nice. And for a while you were with Philly Core?
Yes, I actually was the head of Philly Core for a little while.
Are they still doing those core things?
I'm not sure, because after I did Philly Core for a long time, and then I just got burnt out, and there was nobody to replace me. So it just kind of, Philly Core folded after I left.
And if I recall correctly, there was somebody who was anonymous that had some money to throw around.
Yes.
And really wanted to organize regional organizations.
And he did a great job. I know him.
Yeah.
He's a very nice guy. I'm not going to give his name because I think he still wants to be anonymous.
Yeah, yeah.
He's not anybody's heard of.
Yeah, yeah.
If I gave you his name, you'd be like, who?
Yeah.
You wouldn't have heard of him.
There was a point person whose name I do forget who was very public about it.
Fred Edwards.
Yes, yes. Oh,
he is my favorite atheist. I will say this right now. Fred Edwards is my favorite atheist. You might not have heard of him. He kicked O'Reilly's ass on his own show. It was hilarious. I'm the only one who has that clip. Oh. Fred put it up. Bill O'Reilly took it down for copyright issues. Then I put it up. Fred gave it to me, and I kept putting it up. And every time it gets yanked down, I put it back up.
Oh, nice! I'd love to see a copy, because
I have it. I'll have to send that to you.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, again, the listeners don't know. I just found, I was cleaning my bookshelf today, which is something I do not very often, because you just sit something up there and you go, I'll put it away tomorrow, and then 5 years goes by. But I have this DVD from Dr. Dino. I showed you a few minutes ago. I think it's Eric Hovind, Kent Hovind's Spawn. And I was like, oh my God, I wonder how bad this is, because I don't know that I ever watched it. But it's all about how the Earth is 5,000 years old, kind of crap.
Yeah, I got a lot of those Ray Comfort CDs. Oh. Actually, Ray Comfort sent me one of his books once with $10 in it. That was pretty cool.
Oh, nice, nice.
Like a real $10 bill. I was like, wow, really?
Yeah, yeah. I did have Fred Edwards at my house years ago. We were trying to start a Illini Corps for Central Illinois. It just never clicked, and the problem you had is the problem I had, is I didn't have time to do it all, and no one else wanted to do it all, and
I wasn't the first to head Philly Corps. I was I took over after somebody else.
Yeah,
but I was the head of Philly Corps for a real long time, and it burnt me out after a while. Philly Corps was the first of the corps.
Yeah,
and we weren't the last, though. I don't know if they're still going on. I think some of them may be, but I haven't really gotten an answer about that.
So you have been doing this kind of stuff. We met. You told me we met once several years ago, but you've been doing this stuff at least at some level 15 plus years. Does that sound right?
Probably longer than that.
Yeah,
I started in college. My freshman year of college, I met fundamentalist Christians for the first time. And I was hooked, not in becoming a fundamentalist Christian, but I wanted to know how these people could believe these crazy things. Because I grew up in North Jersey, right outside New York City. I never met a born again Christian before. It was a real eye opening experience for me.
Yeah, I'm very similar because I don't know. When did I, 5, 10, 15? I'm probably pushing 17, 18 years. And it's one of those weird things because sometimes I'll run into people and they're like, it seems like almost everybody is new and there's no one left because, like you said, burnout. It gets very difficult sometimes. Or some people implode.
Yeah, I got lucky. I met Margaret Downey, who's the head of the Free Thought Society. Yeah. And she kind of took me in and kind of mentored me. And I was a board member for the Free Thought Society when it was the Free Thought Society of Greater Philadelphia. Yeah. And so she did a great job. She's one of my favorite atheists, also her and Fred Edwards, and Herb Silverman, who I got to write the foreword for my book.
And go ahead and plug the book now.
Okay,
since you're waving it around.
So I've been working on this book. I have like a few books that I'm working on, but this one was the first one I wanted to get out. It's Disproving God and 5 Adequate Reasons to be an Atheist. And it's basically it's a 2-part book, and it's short. It's short by design. The first part is more of a logical argument using the Bible, but it doesn't rely on the Bible, but it just sort of disproves God on a very ontological level in a sense. Ontological is not really the right word there, but it's the closest word I can think of.
It's so funny because philosophy, I can't do it. I like shut down. My eyes get glossy. I get a rash. I don't know what it is.
This is me using my master's degree in philosophy.
Well, no, but it's funny because some people love that and some people respond to that. And some people, atheists and Christians and other religions, love having those nuanced philosophical debates.
Right.
I can't.
And that's why I have the second part of the book.
Yeah.
The second part of the book is my funny take on like just 5 adequate reasons. They're not like, these reasons are definitely going to convert you. I don't want to set the bar that high. Well, they're just decent reasons.
It's funny because
it's me being funny.
The first half is disproving God, which is a pretty bold claim, and then you go to adequate.
Right. So, I wanted it to be bold. I want religious people to see it and pick it up because they want to disprove me disproving God. Yeah. So I purposely want to be bold, get their attention, and then kind of bring them down and have the conversation.
Well, if you want, I don't know, should we just tease them so they buy the book? Do we want to tell them the argument?
No, I don't want to tell them the argument.
Okay, then we won't do that.
I don't want to tell them I already have one troll who I refused to tell him the argument on Facebook, so he gave it 1 star on Amazon and left like a review, like he met me and I couldn't debate him. I didn't try to debate him. I didn't want to debate him.
Well, then I won't give up the secret. But it is very much like, I know what it was. When I meet someone who is paying attention to following whatever Ken Ham, creation, answers in Genesis, crazy psycho guy. He has this thing where he talks about evolution, and when someone mentions evolution, his famous line was, "Were you there?" Right? Because he'll ask them, Christians, ask the atheist, "Were you there?" Because there's historical science and then there's modern day science, all this bullshit. And so the trick that I came up with when someone said to me, "Were you there?" I will say, "Yes, I was, and this is exactly how it happened." And they're like, "You weren't there. You couldn't have been there." And I go, "Not only was I there, I know you weren't there because I didn't see you because I was there." And they're like, "But wait, you couldn't have been there because of this reason, because of that reason, because of this reason." And I was like, wait a minute. So you do accept logical arguments based backwards in time because you're now arguing with me the very points that I would argue against you. And so I just flip it on its head. And that's exactly what you did with the first half of this book, where you kind of actually used the Bible to beat the shit into the Christian's head. It's hysterical.
Your story reminded me of a story when I was in college. There was a creationist giving a seminar, and I went, and I was wearing a Hot Topic shirt that just said God on it in lowercase letters. Yeah, it was the most atheist shirt around at the time. And I was sitting there, and afterward, a Christian came up to me and pointed at my shirt. He said, "Do you believe that? Do you really believe that?" I was like, "What the hell? Sure, I believe that." Before you know it, I have 10, 15 Christians huddled around me, asking me questions, and I'm playing the character of God, and they're using atheist arguments against me.
Oh, nice.
It was the funniest thing I had done at that time. It was hilarious. It
reminds, and I wish there was a video of that several years ago when I was on the quad at the University of Illinois for, like orientation day, table day, where all 150 student groups, when like 50 of them are religious based, all have tables out on the quad, so you can go and get information. Right. And these two young gentlemen came and asked if they could pray. I said pray on me, and they wanted to pray for me. And it was supposed to be like a 20, 30-second thing that they were doing. But every word they said, I questioned them. And it just got more and more drawn out. And for like 15 minutes, they were trying to get this 20, 30-second prayer out, and they got so frustrated. And they were pretty cool about it. But I was like, oh, my God, I wish I had a video of that. 'Cause
Yeah. Back then, we didn't do video as we do now. Oh, you can't even imagine. But it's funny because a lot of the people I knew from college who were fundamentalist Christians I became friendly with, even though we jazzed each other a lot. I don't know if that's the right word. But we became good friends. And now I have the book out. A few of them have reached out to me. They want autographed copies. So I'm meeting up with one guy that I was friends with in college. Meeting up with him next week.
Nice.
He was a Harold Camping guy.
Okay.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Harold Camping.
Predicting the end of the
No, it's actually the second. 1994 Harold Camping.
It didn't,
before he had the billboards.
Well, he had the end of the earth, and it didn't happen. And then didn't he have a stroke or something?
Yeah, the third time. After the third time, he had a stroke.
Yeah, that was.
So he had once in the 70s, once in the 90s, and then another one in 2001 or something like that.
Oh boy, it can't be that long
2002,
ago.
I think.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was so long ago. Yeah, it's one of those things that every single prediction of the end of the earth hasn't come true, thankfully, because it's where I live.
Well, I think I did have a prediction once on one of my radio shows. It was like way in the future when the sun goes out.
Oh, nice.
But I teased it out.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So, listeners, once again, the title of the book is called Disproving God and 5 Adequate Reasons to Be an Atheist. You can go find it at any good bookstore. And like you said, Herb Silverman was kind enough to do a nice forward. And it's delightfully short. And I love that the price is $6.66, which is the top tier to be a patron for the Phil Ferguson Show, by the way.
Awesome.
$6.66. But really flowed very well. Good job. It did. I had a great time reading it. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you. There was something in there that was, I don't know, it was wrong. I have to correct you.
Okay.
Justin Bieber isn't that bad.
That's right. I imagine.
Well, you didn't see that one coming, did you?
No, I did not.
The other one I was tempted to debate you with was Parsecs from Han Solo, but
right.
I figured that was too cliche for.
I'm a huge Star Wars fan.
Oh yeah,
that's my other passion is Star Wars. When I was, I also wrote for Publishers Weekly at one point. As a contributing writer for them in their religion section, ironically enough. And I got to interview the guy who created the Church of Jediism.
Yep. Yeah.
In Wales.
Yep.
And I'm way more into Star Wars than that guy.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So his book was very disappointing. I was not impressed. It was basically New Age stuff with like a small smattering of Star Wars thrown in. Very disappointing.
Yeah.
I could have done a better job of doing that book than he did.
Well, the nice thing is the argument in your book, and again, we're just going to tease it so people can go buy it. it's not something that's generally put forward philosophically. Like you threw out some of those philosophy words and I glazed over.
Right.
You don't need any of that. It's an argument that I have used in the past, which was hysterical to see because I probably didn't come up with it. Maybe you did. Maybe someone else came up with it. You heard it.
I probably didn't originate it, but I think I crystallized it in a very easy way.
Yeah.
It's hard to create a new argument. I've been around a while. Yeah. This is the closest to a new argument I've come up with.
Yeah.
But it's pretty. The way I lay it out, I think, is very clear.
Yeah.
And it gets the religious person onto a ground onto the same ground we're on, so that they can't once they're defeated, they can't backtrack.
Yeah. Well, the thing that you did different than I've ever done is you actually had some pretty good biblical citations to support everything in the argument and how it actually ends up the Bible disproving God in and of itself. So kudos for that. I'll probably stick to my tongue-in-cheek version of the same argument that I've been using for years because I like to do what you're talking about. It's changed the battlefield because if you go, can you imagine the greatest cause and every cause has a first cause? Oh my God.
All heard those before.
I can't do that. And the other thing that is really weird, I don't know if you've ever had this opportunity, when someone gives you an argument, I like to ask them, is that the argument that convinced you to be a Christian?
Right.
Every single time I've ever asked that, they said no. And I go, well, why do you think it's going to work for me? And like, I don't know, because it's really about a feeling. It's about knowing God. And I'm like, okay,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, religious people aren't convinced by arguments. That's not how they became religious.
Yeah.
A book that I hopefully will write at some point deals with why religious people become religious.
Yeah.
But that's another book down the line.
Well,
I have five more books I want to get out before that one.
to paraphrase House from the TV show House, the actor that played House, if religious people were amenable to rational arguments, they wouldn't be religious people. So something like that. I'd have to look it up.
But it does take time. Like I have deconverted people, and it does take time. It's never like you give an argument and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's right. I'm done." That's not how it happens. But we can start the process, and that's the whole thing. It's a journey for them. Another quick story. When I was in college, I met a guy named Tom who was a fundamentalist Christian. He did a program on how he got over alcoholism through Jesus.
All right.
Of course, it was a bait and switch kind of thing. It was, how do you agree with Tom? How I got over alcoholism, and they didn't mention the religious part until after you get there. And we became friends after that. And after college, he went on to seminary, and we would write letters to each other every few months, like long letters.
Yeah.
Where we would first, talk about our friend, things going on in our lives, and then hit each other with religious arguments and whatever. After a few years, though, he went on to Yale Divinity School and everything, and took a very long time. And one of his letters was, I don't think God's there anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for him, it was a real depressing thing.
He's invested a lot of effort.
Yeah, it was a real depressing thing for him, and it was really tough for him to deal with.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's really ever really fully dealt with it.
Yeah.
He still sometimes plays the religion part.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not a believer anymore. He just,
Yeah, I had it really lucky because I decided it was all fiction and unsupportable at the age of 13. And
that's about when I
so it was just, I didn't lose friends. People in high school didn't care. Wasn't a big deal. We were in a modern city. We weren't in something like Arkansas.
Right.
It wasn't a problem. No one cared. And
that was my experience as well. Nobody cared until I came to college. Then it became a big deal. Then I became like a born again atheist in a sense.
Well, and of course,
I became activist.
I got that sense from you that is something for me. I love hearing these stories. As a matter of fact, the last episode we had stories on about that because I keep thinking that if I learn more about why people believe this, it'll make sense. And it always seems to make it worse. That it's just more and more fascinating. The more I learn, the more bizarre it is that anyone believes this stuff.
Yeah, I always want to know why people believe the things they believe. And that's fascinated me. And yeah, it's just something I've always been curious about, especially some of these religious ideas. They're really out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I just can't even fathom. My brain just doesn't wrap around that.
But Xenu is real, so let's not.
Yeah, that's true.
Where can people reach you? Where they can email you, follow you?
Oh yeah. So you can find me on Dangerous Talk. I have a Facebook group, Facebook/Dangerous Talk. Dangerous Talk is my Twitter handle. You can tweet me. I'm not on Twitter that much. I should be, but I'm not. And email is dangeroustalk@gmail.com. And I still have the blog at skepticinc.com/dangeroustalk. There's all kinds of past stuff there.
Yeah.
I have an older blog, too, that has archived posts, dangeroustalk.net. There's some fun stuff there, too.
Well, I saw it because I think just you happened to make a random Facebook post about the book was finally out. And I was like, well, how did I not know about this in advance? So I am delighted that maybe a whole bunch of people can hear about this book and go to their favorite bookstore and get it. It's Disproving God. And again, Stax Rosch. Did I do that right?
Yep.
Still?
Yep.
Woo.
Yeah, you can find it on Amazon. That's probably the best place to find it right now. But yeah, Amazon.com has it, and I'll be putting it out in other avenues shortly.
Yeah, and one of your goals you said was that it's so short that a Christian could read it.
Yeah.
That's my spin on it. Sorry. I couldn't help myself.
No, I intentionally made it short because I gave a Christian friend of mine Letter to a Christian Nation by Sam Harris.
Yes.
Because I thought that was short and that he would read it. And he gave me, what's that? The Case for Christ.
Yeah, Strobel.
Right. Yeah, Strobel, right. So he gave me the Case for Christ. I read the Case for Christ.
Yeah.
With notes and everything, and I wanted to discuss it with him. He did not read Sam Harris's book. He said it was too long. So, that I wanted to make a book that was short, that would grab their attention,
right?
Convince them to read it, and to have a discussion. So in the back of the book, there's my contact information. So after they read it, we can have the discussion.
Absolutely. I love it. So hopefully some listeners will go and buy that. Maybe you can sell a few extra copies, and they'll go check you out on Facebook and other places. And I thank you so much for coming on the Phil Ferguson Show.
I thank you for having me.
And what's meant to happen when you die and go to heaven? You see a big bright light. You walk towards the light. What's at the end of the light? All your dead relatives. Well, whoop-de-fucking-do. You ever spent a weekend at your grandparents' house? It's fucking shit. You'd be out there for an hour going, wish all me friends would die. Be out there meeting everyone. Hello, Nana. Hello, Grandad. Hello, Uncle who used to touch me. How did you get up here? Oh, that's right, you used to work for the church. You hear that little groan when I said that? When I said you have to work for the church? It's because religious people are in the crowd and they don't like hearing facts. That's a fact. There's been pedophiles in the Catholic Church. It's been on 60 Minutes. Fucking fact. But I say, and it's like, oh, no, because religious people will forgive God for fucking anything. If he, in their mind, he does good things. Rainbows, children's laughter, shit like that, right? But when he does bad things like hurricanes, AIDS, cancer, child molestation, then we just go, oh, well, God works in mysterious ways. What type of an excuse is that? What is mysterious about acting like a fucking asshole? That is like the least mysterious activity since the dawn of time. If I ever date a religious girl, she's going to come home and I'm going to be raping her mum, right? And she's going to look at me and go, what are you doing? And I'm going to go, I'm mysterious. I've always been mysterious.
You're listening to The Bill Ferguson Show.
Wanted to take just a moment here to thank everybody that has gone over to Patreon, patreon.com/Phil, and they've signed up to become patrons of The Phil Ferguson Show. Once again, patreon.com/Phil for just $1 an episode. And an important note, it's not per week, because if I skip a week or two, you're not out anything. You're just contributing to when I actually get my shit together enough to produce a show. It's $1 to start. There's higher tiers. I think the top tier is $6.66, just the same amount as the book that we talked about earlier in the show. But you can donate money there to kind of just as a nice way to say, hey, Phil, I like what you're doing. It's valuable to me, and or it's valuable to other people, because one of my goals is that people who are perhaps already atheists or leaving religion might find some of my segments on religion educational, beneficial, help them find their way out of the mind virus of religion, and also learn about investing. I also hope that there are some people who come to me because they found the show somehow about investing or my radical opinions on Bitcoin, and that when they learn about investing, they're also learning about why religion is bullshit. So I like to think of it as a win-win. It helps you survive or escape religion, and hopefully it helps you find a path, slow and steady as it might be, with ups and downs, path of how to get to retirement, how to be able to afford retirement. And for some people, I'm getting more and more of these emails, which, it's unfortunate, and it's not going to change anything that I do, where more and more people think that there is a quick and easy path to wealth. And of course, if you bought a ton of Bitcoin 5 years ago, 8 years ago, when it was next to nothing, and held it all the way till now, you could be rich. But you know that now because of hindsight. I don't like those strategies. I'm not going to recommend those strategies. I'm giving what I consider to be really boring investment advice. Stocks and bonds. Keep your expenses low. Keep your taxes low. And the reason I do this is because I am very, very confident that it's going to work. I can't say that it will work because sometimes the whole thing just ends and explodes. But we have 200 years of history of the U.S. stock market and stock markets around the world succeeding, where you put money in, the companies grow, the companies produce value, you make money. And I know that it works. I know that it has worked. I have every expectation that it will work. And I actually have clients that have been putting money in for years and years and years, and now I don't know what to call them. I don't want to say rich. They're wealthy. I guess rich, because my definition of rich is no longer having the need to work for the purpose of earning money. You may choose to work because you want to. You may choose to work because you're terrified of sitting at home and getting old. You may choose to work because if you spend too much time with your significant other, you don't get along as well. Whatever motivates you. Maybe you actually love your job. That's the problem I have. I actually really like doing what I do. It's very cool. And maybe you have a job like that too. Maybe you can work part-time, but you don't have to. You don't have to work anymore. That's the goal. That's the goal, is to get to a point where you don't have to work. You can choose to for whatever reason, but you don't have to. And if the boss comes in one day and is screaming and yelling at you, you could take off your little McDonald's badge. You can take off your police officer's badge. You can take off, your clip that says you work at a big high-tech company, and you can set it down on the table and say, I'm out. I'm walking out, because you don't have to be there. And maybe for some people, just knowing that you don't have to be there makes it all the better. So I am looking for what I call the everlasting nest egg. If I steal from Willy Wonka's everlasting gum stopper, the everlasting nest egg that is sufficiently big enough and sufficiently intelligently invested that you can pull out 4% or 5% or 6%. And this, of course, depends on different variables, including your age. And if you have questions about that, you can send me an email, phil@polarisfinancialplanning.com. But we want to have this everlasting nest egg that lasts as long as you do, and maybe longer, depending on your goals. You may want to leave money behind for some other people because you're a caring fucking human being. So, anyway, before I get on too much ranty stuff, I think the only conference that will be in person this year, or is likely to be, is Freedom from Religion Foundation. When I talked to Robin Blumner, who is going to be in the next show, the CFI conference in Vegas is not going to happen this fall. American Atheists already did not happen in person, although they did a nice online conference. CFI is doing every 2 weeks segments with the people that were going to be talking at the conference, so we have that to look forward to. All kinds of things that you can do, but very limited opportunities to meet in person. So fingers crossed, we go the right direction with the COVID, and in the fall, maybe, I think it's in Boston. I'm going to have to maybe get someone from FFRF to talk about their conference, if it happens in Boston, of 2021. So I'll wrap up. And again, I thank you for listening. If you can spare a few bucks, go to patreon.com/Phil and sign up there. If you don't have any money, you can give a 5-star review at Apple Podcasts or Stitcher. And I do appreciate everyone who listens, and I thank you for your time in spending it with me. And like I said earlier, I'm going to put in a little clip from Robert Greene Ingersoll, as read by, I don't know who read by it. I'll have to check that out for next time. I'm sure the name is here somewhere. But as read by a hired professional Shakespearean actor, and this is from the Center for Inquiry's disc, Robert Greene Ingersoll, and it has 2 complete works of Ingersoll performed in our time. That's what it says. One is called About the Bible, and the other one is Why I Am Agnostic. And I'm going to throw in, I think, a short clip, just a couple minutes of the start of the beginning of About the Bible. And then maybe if you guys like it, let me know. If you hate it, let me know. And maybe I'll include some more segments in the future if it's appreciated. So we're going to do that right after the exit music, the standard stuff, and it's going to be at the backside. So no tricky Christian crazy wacko music this time. It's going to be some words of Robert Greene Ingersoll. Oh, I almost forgot. Ciao.
Somebody ought to tell the truth about the Bible. The preachers dare not because they would be driven from their pulpits. Professors in college dare not because they would lose their salaries. Politicians dare not. They would be defeated. Editors dare not. They would lose subscribers. Merchants dare not because they might lose customers. Men of fashion dare not, fearing they would lose caste. Even clerks dare not because they might be discharged. And so I thought I would do it myself. There are many millions of people who believe the Bible to be the inspired Word of God. Millions who think that this book is staff and guide, counselor and consoler, that it fills the present with peace and the future with hope. Millions who believe that it is the fountain of law, justice and mercy, that to its wise and benign teachings the world is indebted for its liberty, wealth and civilization. Millions who imagine that this book is a revelation from the wisdom and love of God to the brain and heart of man. millions who regard this book as a torch that conquers the darkness of death and pours its radiance on another world, a world without a tear. They forget its ignorance and savagery, its hatred of liberty, its religious persecution. They remember heaven, but they forget the dungeon of eternal pain. They forget that it imprisons the brain and corrupts the heart. They forget that it is the enemy of intellectual freedom. Liberty is my religion. Liberty of hand and brain, of thought and labor. Liberty is a word hated by kings, loathed by popes. It is a word that shatters thrones and altars, that leaves the crowned without subjects and the outstretched hand of superstition without arms. Liberty is the blossom and fruit of justice, the perfume of mercy. Liberty is the seed and soil, the air and light, the dew and rain of progress, love, and joy.